What's up, guys? Let me just make sure this is working. Okay, cool. I think I'm on. I have no idea what I'm doing. But what's up? It's been probably a long time for a lot of you guys. I'm just messing around here and seeing what's going on with everybody. I have not done this before. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll tell you what, I'm having a really good week and my life is good right now. I just wanted to give everyone an update. I had a child on Saturday, so life is really good. We named him Luke Richard, and yeah, he's something special. It was a pretty magic moment, and my wife's doing well, and yeah, I'm almost getting emotional talking about it now, but yeah, I wanted to kind of just mess around a little bit with some of my thoughts. It's been a long time since I've really publicly expressed anything to anybody, so just checking back in for some people. Um, and I don't think anyone's really going to want to listen to this, so we'll see. It's kind of a little experiment of mine, but yeah, I'll kind of get kick things off. Hoping to just have a few guests. Um, we'll see kind of where it goes. No idea where it's going to go. Don't know what I'm going to post. Today, the date is Thursday, October 12th. So yeah, my baby's been born for a little less than a week now. Saturday at 9:59. Real heavy baby. So my wife, you know how that goes. But yeah, got my coffee, just hanging. Don't know what I'm doing. Other than obviously helping my wife with diapers when I can, waking up in the middle of the night. We're getting an okay amount of sleep. It's probably 3 to 4 hours at this point in between, which is really good. Um, but yeah, I don't even know how much I'm going to share about my son. I kind of want to keep him off the internet. That's not really what I want to do. So yeah, I'm going to probably keep him off as much as I can. Maybe I'll have him, stories about him from time to time, but we'll keep it mostly focused around the guests and whatever the topic is for the given day or week. But yeah, today did I already say the date? It's October 12th, Thursday, October 12th. So just enjoying a beautiful day here in Marlton. I'll probably give you a little tour of the office here in a second. So this is our office that we finally got done. Shout out to Rich, my father-in-law, who's very, very handy. I aspire to be just a smidgen of what he can do someday. So I have no idea if I'll ever get there, but definitely been trying to be a little more handy myself now that I'm a father. But yeah, it's been great. We finally are pretty much settled into our house here in Marlton. And yeah, I kind of wanted an excuse to talk to some more people. It's been a little bit since I've kind of popped in, so just wanted to check in, see how everybody's doing, share some love, spread the love, and go from there. I'm probably gonna have a lot of guests that are just kind of close to me that are in various different fields, and we'll hopefully learn something new each time. And yeah, I have no idea what this is going to be, but I'm kind of excited to just explore something new. I get a little bit of time off here for paternity leave, which is nice. My company does that, so yeah, just gonna see what's happening with podcasting and with just sharing my thoughts more in general, and hopefully getting to reconnect with some cool people. So thanks, guys. Hey, mom, how's it going?
Hi. Look at you wearing glasses. Are those like reading glasses or what?
They're blue light glasses, so they help with the blue light. So I
Oh,
honestly I don't know if you've ever had this. They might so maybe built into your prescription these days, but I used to get bad headaches after a full day of like meetings on Zoom and stuff. So
yeah.
once like it's very corny to say because like I sound like I'm preaching a commercial for the blue light glasses, but it's made a big difference. Like I don't have headaches as much just from because you're staring at the screen, but it takes away the blue light.
Okay. Because I mean, stare at screens, but not to do Zoom, but just for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Zoom, I mean, spreadsheets, the same, like I was doing a lot of spreadsheets when I first had the really bad
I
headaches.
know I have eye strain, and the whole reason I wear glasses is because of computers. I
I'm
didn't wear
telling you,
glasses
you should
before.
ask your eye doctor about like a slight because I think this is like 45% blue light or something, but it'll help just take the edge off a little bit where you won't
Yeah.
feel if you have headaches or whatever, but it's the migraines got me for a bit.
Yeah. So it's nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Glad to see a picture of Ty that she's live and well.
Yeah, she's doing well.
She looked good to me. I know she was didn't look
Baby's
herself.
healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
she had her first day alone with him today. She kind of kicked me out of the house.
Oh, did you go to work?
Yeah. Because we haven't spent like a lot of time together in a long time. So
Uh-huh.
we got like, I mean, 10, 11 days deep of just
Yeah,
one-on-one time, basically. And she's
yeah.
like, can you go to work tomorrow? I'm like, fine. Okay.
Did she have a good day though, on her own with the baby?
Yeah. I was getting a bunch of pictures of them out shopping, grocery shopping, which he was in the cart. So like she put him in
Yeah.
the grocery cart. So it was very, very cute.
Does he have like a schedule where he sleeps around the same time or something like
Yeah.
that usually?
Yeah. So he's been pretty routine. He's going 4 hours at a time, which is awesome.
Oh
So,
yeah.
and babies, they say like you can't, like when he's this young, you're supposed to actually wake him up at that point, even though it's like, oh, don't wake a sleeping baby, but like they're telling us to, so we have to. But
Well, especially for feeding schedules, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
exactly. He needs his food.
Mike was on that kind of schedule where I would wake him up if it was time for him to be fed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dave's just standing here.
He's ready for his episode. He's the first guest because you Mike bailed on me.
Yeah. I have to go to Bible study.
Oh, have fun. Have
All
fun.
right.
Good seeing you. Love you, Mom.
Love you. You stay
All right, I
here.
think we got this lighting worked out. So
Yeah, it looks much better.
Door open just so
yeah,
you-
well, that looks good. Yeah, I like that.
Much better.
I'll have to remember that for future, Zooms and podcasts that I do.
Yeah, well, the thing is, so what I'll probably get at some point is like the professionals, they have what's called a ring light. So they put it right above their camera, around the camera. I don't know where, but it's basically a circle that's like a white light, and it's basically like almost like a spotlight right on them. So it's like the best possible lighting that way.
Mhm.
But it's I've been trying to do some research on like what the real people do, but yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for hopping on. We have Dave Almack tonight, our first guest, folks. Very, very excited to talk to my dad here. We talk on a regular basis, you would say, at least twice a week.
Oh
usually.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Especially if the Phillies are playing.
That's right. So we're still keeping up, but I definitely wanted to get you on as one of the first guests here. And I actually did, funny enough, prepare a couple questions that I figured kind of make this a little fun. But I don't know if you thought about like anything you wanted to talk about, but I have a nice little
No, you can go for it, man.
questions
Shoot
going.
the questions away, and I'll see what I can do to answer you.
All right, cool. Oh, I just got a text from Calvin Pittman. Love that. He said, "Congrats, Dad. Little guy is a cutie." Love that. I was gonna text him, but
Yeah.
I missed that guy. Shout out to Calvin Pittman.
Well,
I'm gonna get him on as a guest.
Ever since you allowed me to get on social media with a grandpa picture, I think I almost broke the internet yesterday because I had nearly 200 people comment.
Ooh, you're pushing some numbers. Is that where does that rank? Where does that rank in your
it's one of my top posts ever for sure.
Wow. You'll have to get back to me on if it ended up being number one, but that's really funny. But yeah, just to give some backstory onto what my dad is saying. So my wife and I wanted to sort of keep him off the internet as much as we possibly could, but it was funny. She came up to me yesterday, and so we haven't posted anything of him. And she came up to me yesterday and said, "Honey, I think I'm ready." Like basically, she took a picture that was so cute. I'm botching the stories, but she took a picture on a blanket, which is like the stereotypical Instagram post that everyone's been doing. Which I looked at it and I was like, I don't know if I'm biased, but I was like, all right, it's really cute. We gotta she is like, I'm gonna put this up. So I was like, all right, fine. So we broke our own rule pretty early. I had a feeling that might happen though, just when it's your own kid and the cuteness and all the rest of it. But we also didn't want to hold family. So my dad, for example, has been one of the people that's really wanted to, as he should, wanted to post his grandson. So I understand it. And we have Christy on the other side, who's also been trying to post stuff. So
Yeah, it's that grandparent thing. I guess it changes you a little bit.
oh no, it's fine. It's totally fine. Cool. So yeah, I wanted to. So first of all, I we'll see how this goes, but this is like just honestly a trial run.
Sure.
But the first thing I wanted to ask you about is just really just your job right now. So just kind of bring it back to like where you're at right now with life. So I know you're working in publishing again. If you want to just maybe give like a however long intro onto kind of what you're up to these days. 'Cause I'm sure a lot of people that'll tune into this probably have no idea kind of where you've been in the last couple of years, and just give a little backstory on kind of what you're doing, maybe what you like about what you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of crazy, but I've actually been working for the same company now for a little over 5 years. It's called P&R Publishing, which stands for Presbyterian and Reformed. And before your entire audience falls asleep, just to say that I really do love what I do. And I get to do two main things. One is to go out and find new books and new authors. And so I spend a lot of time looking at proposals and manuscripts and talking about ideas and frankly, just dreaming up new book concepts and things like that. And then once we contract an author or sign a deal to get the book, I hand that off to our editorial team. But then when the book is ready to be sold and go to the marketplace and whatnot, I spend a lot of time working with our marketing and sales team and the authors themselves to figure out the right plan to get that book discovered, first of all, and then sold into the hands of consumers that will want that book or need the book. So yeah, it's kind of the book ending of the publishing process, kind of the beginning and the end. And I really enjoy what I do.
So I have a quick question right off the bat, and I've always actually thought about this and never meant to, or I meant to ask, but I never did. Do you read all the books that you're publishing, and how much of the books are you reading? Because there's no chance that you can read the amount that you guys are pushing out. There's no chance you're
So
reading.
all I can say is I hope your subscribers are paying well for this podcast because they're about to get some secret insider information.
I love it. That's what we want. That's what we want.
Because there is a lot more that goes on behind the scenes in publishing that people have no idea about. And one of the biggest secrets to publishing is that almost nobody actually writes the entire book before they submit it. Essentially, they submit a proposal and then they submit maybe 2 chapters. And so, to be fair, I read all the stuff that's submitted. So I'm going to read
about 2 chapters
and about 2 chapters of the book to be able to make a decision as to whether or not we're going to go any further with it. Because so you got to if you're an author, you got to wow me in 2 chapters and an introduction.
Fair enough.
Or it's not going any further. Now
that's a really good, any authors out there, that's a really good note. It's you got 2 chapters to wow somebody.
Yeah. That said, outside of my work requirements for reading, I read about 50 books a year from cover to cover. Some years it's more than that.
And that's outside of your fun reading that you do.
Completely outside the work reading. That is my fun reading. That's reading for enjoyment. And I read pretty widely. I mean, I read fiction and nonfiction. And I'm reading books on history, books that are biographies, and then just really fun stories. So lots of different things.
Okay, very, very cool. Yeah, I think it's fun to get some kind of insider tips on publishing. I wanted your approval on this, but I'm going to put together a website that'll have this kind of link to it. Not just this episode, but just in general, the podcast. And what I'll do, like for people like you, really just like brands and folks that I want to sponsor. So like if you're open to it, I could tag P&R Books, is that the website? Just to
it's prpbooks.com.
So prpbooks.com. So yeah, if you want, we can put that in the description, whatever you're open to. I'm totally down to do that. But would you say, so let's just take a step back for a second. So how long have you been in publishing?
So I have been in round books at some level since I was 13 years old, because my first job was in a Christian bookstore in the Caribbean. And really from that time forward, I've always had a love for books, working around books. But in terms of actually in the publishing side, which is a very different part of, it's not just book retailing or selling. I would say I've probably been in that since about 2010, so like 13 years or so now. So yeah.
Yep. Has anybody ever put forward an idea in the 2 chapters that you've looked at and wanted to throw the book away and never read again?
Oh, dude, you can't even imagine some of the stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, we have a pretty strict requirement that you're supposed to turn in your writing a sample in electronic or digital form,
Okay.
so it's printed, so it's easy to read. But I've actually had stuff handwritten sent into me. I've actually had prisoners send me, book ideas.
Hey now, there could be some good stuff coming out of prison.
You never
Don't
know. But,
you never know. You got to read those ones. Actually, for me, that would actually intrigue me more. I'd be like, oh, I
but
wonder what this guy
more,
wants out there.
more often than not, though, it's the weird titles that I get on books, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, how to become a Christian as an asparagus or something. It's just like bizarre stuff that you
As
get.
in, wait a second. I got to pause you now. How to become a Christian as an asparagus? This is a
Yeah.
real title.
No, I'm making that up, but I'm
Okay,
just saying
that would have
but
been a good one.
that's about how crazy some of the book titles are.
That's awesome. You got to send me some of the actual real ones. But if that,
Yeah,
yeah, I
one
would
of
have
these.
gone.
Yeah, no, I could probably literally write a book on the bizarre book titles that I've
Yes.
been given. So
Speaking
yeah,
of books, you did write a book at one point, yes?
I did. Yeah, I
Okay.
did.
And it wasn't it about like how to run a Christian bookstore type of thing?
It was. I spent a number of years working in Christian bookstores and selling Christian books, and I had gotten really frustrated that so many Christian bookstores were closing all over the country.
Yep.
And I had seen just some amazing things happen in the store that we were running in Philadelphia, and God was very faithful to us during those years. And thought, I'll just share a few of my ideas and tips and thoughts about that. And it was just ironic that at the same time as so many Christian bookstores were closing, a lot of independent secular stores were reopening after Borders had closed, the big chain bookstore Borders. And so it didn't make any sense to me why so many Christian bookstores were closing when independent stores were succeeding. And so part of my book is sharing some of my thoughts on why I think stores were closing and what people could do differently. And then a lot of it was just practical tips on how to run a store. I would also say that a lot of the tips I had in that would work for anybody's retail establishment, not just a bookstore. But that was my main focus was a Christian bookstore.
That's awesome. And is it still available like on Amazon for Kindle and
It
stuff?
is not because I did self-publish that, and so later, if you put show notes or out there or something like that, I could give you an email address and people could maybe
Awesome.
email me if they wanted to get it. So yeah.
Awesome. So there are copies available for anybody who's interested. That's awesome. Cool. So yeah, that's sort of the publishing side of my dad. I appreciate you giving us the full scoop. I'm sure maybe we'll get some questions in the comments about it, and we'll put that email or whatever you want to do for the answers and stuff. But the second thing I wanted to talk to you about is, and this is funny because you've always had, and it obviously inspired me in a lot of ways, but you've always just kind of had some silly / interesting / whatever the word is for just always thinking of like a new business idea that might be just fun to do someday. So I wanted to kind of just pick your brain on what the latest and greatest Dave Almack business idea would be if right now you got like $2 million to start something.
Wow, that's so crazy. I love that idea of the $2 million. I'll just start with that. So, but I guess I'm always thinking about like a couple things. One is like what are people's needs for things? Okay,
Yep.
like is there like a gap or a missing thing that people seem to be talking about a lot and they don't have it, or something like that. And then, what my particular area of interest or expertise might be. So I'll give you one that I've never implemented.
Here we go.
And I think it's actually still a possible idea,
Okay.
but it's a little old school. So I'll just throw it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always driving me crazy that like in the professional world, people do still even today do things like, send a handwritten note occasionally or whatever to say thank you.
Yeah.
But it's pretty uncommon that you get physical mail. That's pretty unusual nowadays because everything's emails and texting and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more rare for sure.
Right. And so, like, one of the few things that people get in the mail anymore are birthday cards or cards of any kind.
Yep.
And even that has struggled just because, like on Facebook, I mean, everybody's saying happy birthday to you on Facebook and stuff like that. But I thought about this a long time ago how, especially somebody in a sales function that wanted to kind of really wow their clients or, that kind of thing, could kind of automate the idea of birthday cards, essentially. Okay. And so the idea that I had was to kind of create like a digital repository for all of the key birthdays that you wanted to like send cards to. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you could once a year go in and sort of handpick, different quotes or comments that you'd want on the card. You could put in your digital signature and all that kind of stuff. But then the business would actually physically mail these cards for you. Okay. And so,
Interesting. So would
so
you have like your own custom fonts and stuff like that
oh
would make
yeah, you
it
could totally make
distinct?
it very much customized, and I think you could do a lot more now than you could ever do before. But the
Yeah.
idea is it's a combination now of the digital and the physical. My original idea was all physical because it was before digital even existed.
Mhm.
And I've seen people do this where they got like a shoebox and they'll have like every month in the shoebox, and they'll have like cards for each month, and then they just have to remember to mail them out. But it's just like for guys especially, it's just a hassle to have to remember everybody's birthday and when to ship stuff out and whatever. And so
That
like
would be cool if it was like kind of automated where on
right.
somebody's birthday they get your distinct card that you've
Yeah.
kind of pre-built for them, especially if it was easy, if you made it super
Well,
easy.
and I mean, even if it's like just on the family level, like if you've got a big family and you've got like 40 or 50 relatives that have potential birthdays like we do, I mean,
Yeah.
just trying to keep track of your nephews and nieces is kind of crazy. And so most of us
That's a lot
don't,
of people.
most of us don't even think about that. Most of us simply just do it via, Facebook or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. You could plug it right into you could say connect your Facebook profile and then you'd have all the birthdays.
And that's why I feel like the big, like
We might
the
have to keep this one off the podcast because Facebook's going to steal the idea.
yeah, I just think well, I think that the big idea though in this is not even for the family thing. I think is a big deal, but I think more likely to get people that would want to do this are business people, especially salespeople who want to like really personalize their approach to their customers. And want it, there are people that, let's say it's a long-term deal that you're going after, and you just want to kind of stay on top of your customers. And, imagine if you're somebody who you're trying to decide between two different people, offering you, $100,000 product, whatever that might be, and you're trying to make a decision, and you get this personalized card that you didn't even, on your birthday, from this particular person, because you've developed a relationship with them over time.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
I have to, so this is actually cool because there's a distinct, I've been thinking about an idea lately that's related to direct mail and gifting, because I think, that's kind of what I do to some extent for
in
my
the
job.
marketing side. Yeah.
So I work with a vendor, and I'll give them a shout out. It's called postal.com, or actually it's postal.io.
Okay.
So they're an up and coming tech vendor. Shout out to Postal, but I shout out to Jenny actually, because that's the lady that I work with on a regular basis to make kind of custom gifting kits and all the rest of it. So like you're saying, it is a huge wow moment for any customer, prospects, whoever you're going after, because I've experienced it firsthand, like just on people giving me gifts just to talk to me. But it's a huge wow moment when you're considering two different vendors for a software, and this is just in the software realm. But when one vendor's gonna, and there is some element of, you don't want to be bribey with this, you don't want to come off as being bribey, but like you're saying, if you personalize it to somebody's birthday, and go to that level of personalizing, you're basically creating this like magic moment for somebody, because not only have you probably emailed, text, called, or some minor relation with this person, but that second touch point is now something ding dong at the door. And you're like, what is this? And you're opening up something that's physical. So it's a mixture of that digital experience that you have with somebody, and then it's physical. So there's a branch off of a direct mail company, like they're a bigger brand, like a Postal. They're not really geared towards like the personalized birthday stuff. They can do stuff like that, but that's not their specialty. So it's an interesting idea to kind of explore something that's more of a niche direct mail service that's really just around birthdays. So that's a cool idea. I figured you'd have a good one in the back pocket, as you always do. So I appreciate that. Cool. So the next question. So I just want to take another step back, and just go back to the olden days. So kind of the days where I was where I was growing up, where my brother Mike, who was supposed to be our first guest tonight, who did not make it the first episode. So I'm hoping to get him on hopefully later this week. But if you could just kind of talk about sort of like our background a little bit, maybe. So like the thing I had jotted down in the notes here was just like maybe how you felt when you left CLC versus how you feel now. So kind of like where you're at, just like with all of that, and just maybe sort of like our background when it comes to Kenneth Adams.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great question. And for folks who are just jumping on the podcast and don't know anything about our family, we come from a long line on one side of the family of people that were missionaries, that were pastors, heavily involved in the church, that kind of thing. Definitely Christians for sure. And so my grandfather is a guy named Kenneth Adams. His wife was Bessie Adams. They're both British, and they founded an organization called the Christian Literature Crusade, or CLC for short, back in 1941 in England, on a shoestring budget. Almost nobody could imagine it was even possible in the middle of World War II for anybody to start something new. And so really, on a whim and a prayer and God's, instigation, they started a little bookstore in Colchester, England. And that was the very first location for CLC back in the, I'm going to say, late 1930s, early 1940s. And by 1941, they'd incorporated, they had called it, they had given it a name, though the original name was Bible Depot, not CLC. And then within probably a couple of years, they had renamed it to CLC. And over the years, very much because of God's providence, that ministry grew, and it's in over 45 countries of the world. Its revenues probably exceed $50 million. It is a not-for-profit organization, and its main purpose is to make—
That's a crazy number you just threw out there. My goodness.
Yeah, no, it's a huge organization today. There are hundreds of people that are employed by CLC around the world.
Yep.
Some are missionaries today, and some are just workers in the organization. It's probably largest in South America, where they've got over 40 bookstores in various different countries. But its purpose is to make evangelical Christian literature available to all nations, so that people come to faith and maturity in the Lord Jesus Christ. And I did memorize that. So anyway,
You had that one pretty
Yeah.
well versed. But that is
so
awesome.
that's a little of the history of that organization. But because my grandfather founded it, and it turns out that my parents joined the organization when I was 1 year old, I didn't really have much choice but to be a part of it. And the organization ended up starting a campus, if you will, here in the Philadelphia area. So the ministry has a location in Fort Washington. And for about 22 years, your mom and I worked with that organization. And I worked in bookstores with them and in publishing and all the rest of it. And love that ministry, love that work, still do. Have lots of friends who are still in the ministry and in the work itself. But yeah, so that's some of that history and some of that background. Goes back to England, goes back to the 1940s, and fast forwarding today, is a global organization that we're still connected to through our family connections and through lots of friends who are part of it.
Yep. And just to fast forward to today, so they were kind enough to let my brother Mike, who's going to be coming on hopefully in a couple episodes here, but he's actually living on campus again. So we have an Almack back on the CLC Hill, which is in Fort Washington, like my dad said. So like he said, lots of history there. Crazy when you say the numbers out loud, 22 years. That's unbelievable. And then just to keep that in perspective, so that's 22 years of my own life. So my first 22 years. Actually, not my first 22 years. So we moved there, when I was 1.5.
Right. Yeah, 1 or 2 years old. So yeah.
Yep.
Because you were born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
That's right.
And
That's
we lived
right.
out there for a little bit, but yeah.
Yep. So I was out in Harrisburg, and then about whatever it was, 1 or 2 years old, moved to Fort Washington, Pennsylvania, and kind of it all changed from there. But definitely, I think both of us could probably agree, really fond memories of CLC. I'm sure I'll get some CLC folks on here very, very soon, which will be fun. But yeah, definitely some cool history there. I don't want to bog everybody down with too much of it. You can always look it up on your own. So clcpublications.com probably, or CLC Ministries, one of the two.
Yeah.
On their own.
Might be like clcusa.org or something like that.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So they can always look up some research on their own. But yeah, definitely kind of form the foundation of definitely where I'm at. I mean, for you, you kind of grew up as going to CLC USA, kind of because you were a missionary kid. So you were in what?
Yeah, I
Let's
actually
talk
spent.
real quick about the
Yeah,
countries that you spent some time. So Barbados is one.
yeah, I grew up overseas until I was 15. I actually went to
Yep.
Jamaica when I was only 10 months old and stayed there for 2 or 3 years. Came back to the U.S. for a couple of years, and then went to Trinidad,
Yep.
another island in the Caribbean, for about like 5 or 6 years, and then went to Barbados for 3 or 4 years, and then finally came back to the States when I was about 15, and ended up going to boarding school in North Carolina for a couple of years to graduate high school. So.
That's amazing. And so like so let's use the North Carolina example. So when you were at North Carolina at the boarding school, grandma and grandpa would have been living at CLC USA, or were they still traveling at this time?
No, they were actually still in the Caribbean at that
Interesting.
point. So they didn't come back until I was actually in college. And frankly, part of the reason they came back was that my grandfather, who I was actually quite close to, who had founded CLC, he died my
Yeah.
freshman year of college.
Yeah.
And so my parents came back to help out with my grandmother's needs and things like that, and ended up staying in the U.S. after that. So.
I just did a quick, and I'll probably do this throughout the episode. I don't want people to think I'm distracted, but I just did a quick Google search of Kenneth Adams CLC USA. So there is a slight, so something does come up for Ken Adams, but it's from CLC Publications website.
Okay.
This picture though, I'm going to share my screen real quick so you guys can see.
Yeah.
But this is where me and Mr. Dave Almack come from. You can kind of see the resemblance here. You definitely see the curly hair. You see
That's
that?
for sure. Yeah,
So he's got.
when I had hair, it was curly too, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you can see this screen, right? I have two different monitors. So this is you
Yeah, I
can
can
see.
see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
Mhm.
Perfect. So yeah, if you guys want to check them out, I just did a quick little Ken Adams Google search. We have a bunch of other Kenneth Adams by now, but at least he's the
I
number
have,
one.
I have to do
That's when he searched this.
I have to do a shout out to one of your friends. I don't know why I think this, but I think he looks a little bit like your friend Joe Miller.
Oh, you know what? Shout out to Joe, and Joe will probably get on the podcast at some point as well. I'm gonna have his brother on, Jake, very very soon.
Yeah.
So Jake will actually be on next week. But yeah, so Joe really does look like him. So shout out to Jake and Joe Miller. Both of them have fond memories of CLC as well. Getting to come onto campus with us, and they would spend weeks at a time with us. I was actually telling somebody else this earlier today, funny enough, because we were talking about parenting and just in general, just dads. And the funny part about my dad is, and Joe Miller made me think of this, but the Millers and people like that would be over, and we had a basement, and we were playing video games and all the rest of it downstairs. So a lot of times we would fall asleep downstairs. Like me and Mike, my brother, would play basketball downstairs. We'd come up with just crazy ways to play sports in the basement, which my mom of course hated. But we're down there, and every Saturday morning, if we had like a Friday night sleepover, you would hear the boys, boys, I have my pancakes ready upstairs. And whatever it was pancakes, or it was
Yeah.
eggs, or it was but I think looking back, and I don't know if you'll admit this, but it was just kind of your way to like wake us up and be like, hey guys, come on
Yep.
up. Like, you guys have been down there for too long at this
Yeah.
point.
So I do think you enjoyed the pancakes, or at least they got
They
eaten.
were some really, shout out to Dave's pancakes. They were very, very good pancakes. And
I feel like I used to throw some chocolate chips in there sometimes.
yes, you did. Yes, you did. They were delicious. And he kind of set the example at a young age that men can cook too, because I think
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
Oh
a
yeah, totally.
stereotype about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we appreciate the breakfast, but just a quick little story there. Cool. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of go back to CLC a little bit. I'm sure that'll come up on more episodes, but just wanted to make sure we touched
Yeah.
on it. So let's do one more topic, and then I have one other topic, and then anything else that comes up from that. But after this next one, why don't we take a little bathroom break? We'll probably
Sure.
both need that. So the one, obviously this is an obvious one that we would probably touch on even if I didn't have as a topic, but just off the top of your head, and I know you've kind of already given me a lot of this, and even just like the way you guys lead by example, but obviously I think I told you guys, my audience, that I just had a child. So he is
just over a week old. So a week and a half essentially. So he's born on Saturday, October 7th. And we're filming here on the 17th. So he's 10 days in.
There you go.
10 days old. So my dad is now a grandfather, first grandchild. But with that said, definitely wanted to get some fatherly advice, some things that you would look back on, maybe do differently, some things that you thought you did really well, just things in general that like you would give me as just pieces of advice for a young child, and then kind of as he gets older.
Yeah, there's one piece of advice that I would give right up front, because I remember this so distinctly. This happened when you and Mike were toddlers in particular, because you guys were getting really energetic. And frankly, your mom and I were getting kind of tired, you know,
Yep.
and there's a lot of
Yep.
running around. And you guys, one of you would come running in and go, say, "Hey, Dad, let's go play." And whatever it was, let's throw a ball, let's kick this
Yeah.
or whatever. And I remember one time, I think I said no, I was tired or whatever. And I beat myself up so much later on because I thought, I probably missed a great opportunity or, whatever, to be able to be with you, and I was just thinking about how selfish I was really being at that moment. And I just kind of made an internal kind of commitment that, like, if possible, and this didn't always work out, but if possible, no matter what I was doing, if I was reading, if I was working on the computer or whatever, if one of you guys came and tapped me on the shoulder or was like, "Hey, Dad, can we go throw a ball? Can we go play?" that I would always say yes, that I would always just put down what I was doing and I would go out and throw the ball around. And I'm sure I didn't, live up to that every time. But I feel like there was a lot of times, especially with Mike as he got older, and even times when you weren't at the house because you were at school or wherever, where he and I had a ton of baseball catches or throwing the football around or whatever. And honestly, some of those times were the most formative in terms of just conversations because they were unscripted and wasn't like planned per se. So yeah, that was the one thing that that I think that I look back on fondly as a thing I would encourage any dad to do, is to really put their kids' play desires, even when they're exhausted and feeling like they don't have any more energy, to just say, you know what, I'm going to do it one more time. And I remember one of the things you used to like to do, was we would get a bucket of balls and go out to one of the fields and hit around. And you and Mike loved to have me pitch to you or to catch bat, do batting practice, that kind of thing. And sometimes that was at the end of a long day or whatever, or on a weekend. But so yeah, that would be one thing I look back on fondly.
I'll say that I'm sure Mike feels the same way, but I definitely appreciate you just always kind of dropping whatever you're doing to throw a ball. And I think that's something that, like, obviously a little cliche and overrated, and people like, oh, you just you're having a catch with your dad, it's not a big deal or whatever, but it really is a big deal. I think that, like, just as something as simple as like having a dad that you can just have a catch with, and like you said, you get to just kind of have conversations that you probably wouldn't have otherwise. It's just such a huge deal just to be able to unwind and enjoy sports. And Mike and I love baseball, soccer, football, basketball, you name it. And my dad was always there for us when it came to just trying. I think basketball is probably the only one that you weren't like ready to jump at, but
no, not as much.
Throwing the baseball, kicking the soccer.
A little hard when you're only 5'6" to feel too excited about basketball. But anyway.
That's true. But yeah, you're always having fun with it. So we definitely appreciate it. I think I was thinking about this earlier this week. I don't know why. Actually, you know why? I've been playing more soccer again. So I've been kicking the ball around. I've been hitting a couple local spots just to kind of get a feel for it. You know what pug nets are? Those little
No, I don't.
Those little, you'd recognize. They're little like 6-foot tiny nets. So you set 2 of them up. It's like small sided soccer.
Oh yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. So I got a couple pug nets for the backyard. So I have a little
fun
kick around there for once Luke gets a little older, we can kick the ball out back. But with that said, like, just thinking about soccer in general and sports growing up, I think one of the things that I'll never forget about you, number one, you're always showing up for games, which is huge, as having parents who actually want to be there. I think that just taught me a lot about how to be there for your kids, and just you just showed me a lot of love in that perspective. And I always kind of told you it was too much love in a way, because you're always on the sideline, and my dad was the dad on the sideline who couldn't resist the very loud cheers, I think, at times, which at the time, looking back on it, I would get done a game, and let's say like I scored a goal or whatever it was, my dad would be like, "Oh, Kenny, you played so great," or just something like as small as that, and I would literally, looking back, this sounds so silly, but I would literally be like, "Dad, why were you doing that? Why were you yelling so much? You're so loud compared to the other parents." Like, and like looking, and now that I have my own son, it's like when he's older, how am I not gonna freak out and cheer?
Oh yeah.
So I totally, it's crazy how just like life and age and time and
Changes
all
your
this just,
perspective.
yeah, it puts it in perspective, because I remember being very not upset. Like, I was never upset, because like inside you still feel there's no way
Yeah.
to not feel good when someone
Well,
cheers
they were
you,
probably
but
a little embarrassed at different points, but
more embarrassed, I think it was. And I think
again,
that
I'm
just
gonna
that
need
came
to.
from me being
I need to plug my computer in because the battery's about to go off here.
yeah, why don't we
We
do the
can pick up
bathroom break?
after break. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Sounds good.
I'll pause it one
Yep.
sec. But I would normally have the camera plugged in, but I don't
Mhm.
tonight, because let me fix
Well,
this.
this is kind of experimental anyway for you guys.
Very experimental, and I only, for whatever reason, on my laptop I only have two input outlets on the side, and so I have
Mhm.
one that's my monitor and one that's the microphone. I figured that since the camera's kind of okay to begin with, I was like, let me just put the microphone versus the camera, but whatever. But where were we? You were giving me some advice, and we were
Yeah,
talking
you asked me about
about
tips on fatherhood, and I think that if I had to give a second tip,
yeah.
I think this is more on the negative side, but I think there's a positive to it as well. And that is, every kid is going to, at some point, do something that their parents don't think they should, and is going to be disobedient in some way or another. I think one of the things that I realized as I got older is that I was a pretty impatient person, and I didn't realize how impatient I was until really having kids kind of brings that out of you.
I
And
can't agree with you more. I've only had them for a week, and I've been so impatient. Like, literally, it's something as simple as us like going to the store, and
yeah,
I'm like looking at my like phone, like, why are we taking so
yeah,
long? And all it is just
exactly.
like, you got to put them in the stroller. You got to, it's like, oh, get them in the bassinet at night. It's like just little things. You're like, oh my gosh, like patience is tough, but keep going.
Well, I was going to say there's a couple aspects to it. One is that you don't realize until it's over that that season doesn't last that long. And I said to your mom that I've often looked very fondly back on the years when you guys were 8 to 12 years old as some of my favorite times with you guys, because those were the years when you were old enough to be involved oftentimes in sports and games and activities. And you found me helpful because I could help you practice and things like that. And it was before either one of you guys really kind of had kind of much of a rebellious streak, and so you were reasonably obedient, I would say, during those periods of time. And I just really enjoyed watching you play and just see how you were growing and things like that. And I think it's just easy to forget how quickly those years go by. And so, any of those moments of impatience, whether it was trying to hurry up at the McDonald's line or
Yeah.
go to the bathroom, whatever, those years disappear. And all of a sudden, your two boys are
Yeah.
no longer in the house. They're no longer even, around kind of thing. And so you're like, wow, where did those years go? And I think the other side of that coin is realizing that, like, being present really is different at every stage of life, because initially, like right now with you, being present is like holding your kid or changing a diaper or whatever. Later on, it's going to be, driving your kid somewhere or taking them to an event or whatever. But at some point, being present is doing this, is actually having a conversation and talking. And like, there's such value to that as well. And I think over time I've begun to really value presence more than I ever used to. And your brother Mike we'll certainly, I'll give him a little shout out and some credit for this. I have often been pretty terrible at restaurants, and wanting the bill to come. So anyway, you could talk to him about this on the side. But
I'm gonna link that YouTube video in the description, the one that I sent you. There's a funny video real quick on this.
Yeah.
Just describes what my dad's talking about, but you're not alone. I just want to tell you that, Dad, you're clearly not alone with this guy posting about this. So parents at restaurants, that's the topic that my dad is going into right now. Go ahead.
So yeah, and I think that Mike has been a real influence in my life to help me see where, some of that impatience can come out in a restaurant setting, and I don't even know it's happening. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
some very funny moments at restaurants for sure.
But the other thing I was going to say, and I think this is probably different for different people's personalities, because some people are just able to handle, things that go crazy or whatever more easily than others. They're kind of a go with the flow kind of personality. I've never kind of been that way, and so like I have a set plan. I've got an idea what I want done.
Yeah.
And so when things don't quite go to plan, I can kind of lose my mind sometimes. And so anyway, certainly, over your childhood, you would have experienced some of that. And I think I did not realize how much anger was going to become part of my life. And I had to really focus and really address that reality that I could become more angry than I realized I was, even as a human being. And so like if I was going to give one piece of advice to dads in general and to you specifically, it's like, when you feel that tension or that rise of anger coming on because your kid is just doing something like completely out of control or, just not in the plan, whatever that might be, to like step back and count to 10, like just take a breath, even if you got to take a walk or do something to get to, your mom used to use the term disengage, and I was not particularly good at that.
I remember when you say that, that brings back memories. And you say I remember hearing you say that.
But I was a pretty intense personality, and I tend to be pretty engaged, not disengaged. And I do think in hindsight, just thinking back over the years, I think if I had stepped back for a minute, counted to 10, taken a breath, walked away from some situations, that would have been healthier. But that said, I always do feel like, I've always tried to lean into life and be part of things and not be someone who's a spectator to life. I feel like too often I do see dads who are kind of checked out, and whether that's like checking their phone or just ignoring their kids or leaving it to the moms to like completely take care of the kids. I think those are really dangerous, tendencies for dads at times to think, hey, someone else has got it. I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I think everything you just mentioned is super good advice. Like you said, not just for me, but for anybody in general. And I think out of the stories I've heard about dads and their anger, I think you definitely don't come near to some of the craziness that goes on from that perspective. But it definitely shows some awareness that you even see that was a thing. And I would say out of all people I know, and you're one of the best people at this, is you are pretty quick to realize, okay, if you did something that is wrong or even just slightly, like you can tell that the other person is upset by, you're very quick to try to resolve it. Even if, like you said, you just take a walk and then an hour later or whatever it was, but like you have this kind of very innate ability to try your best to fix whatever happened quickly, which a lot of people take days, weeks, won't talk to somebody for months, like just because of a small infraction, and you're very quick to try and fix something. So I definitely have tried to take a lot of that from you, because I think like if you're going to sleep angry, you're not going to wake up happy, but like it kind of sticks with you. So yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know if I mentioned, so just kind of going off of the kind of history of the Almacks that we were talking about earlier. I think on the phone I might have mentioned to you that, did I tell you that I found something really interesting on Google about our family?
I think you did.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And did you, I forget what you said, because I've told so many people about this at this point. Did you had already read about this, correct?
Yeah, no, I had done a little bit of research myself because I was always curious, kind of like you, about the name, because our name is so unusual.
Yeah.
Not many people are called Almack. And so, Yeah, when you Google the word Almack, it's kind of funny what comes up.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, I'm gonna do it live for the audience here because it is really, really interesting. And just to kind of give an update to the audience, I did finally. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already done this. The ancestry.com thing. So you basically send your DNA in. And they tell you basically the percentage breakdown of where you're from. So that'll be interesting to see. And we'll see. We'll see when this episode comes out. It may come out before or after the results. Who knows? But regardless of what the results say, I think this is still just super interesting to share for anybody who cares. Obviously, some of you guys will think this is boring, but as an Almack, you find this interesting. So let's just start with the Almax, which is the one that I found pretty quickly once I went on this. But this is just craziness because when you're doing like historical research on your family, you just don't expect to find something as cool as this. And you can see my screen right, Dad.
yep, sure can.
So the first result is this Wikipedia. So first of all, I need to zoom in on this picture because this is just cool. But I'll explain what this picture means in a second. So just take a quick look at that. But just a very, very cool 1700s painting, I believe. But I mean, you guys can do the research on your own. But essentially, the gist of this is that the Almax, right, as it says here, was one of the major social clubs of its generation. So this is the 1800s, and it was mainly this guy, William Almack, which will actually click into him here because he's the main guy that's really interesting. Because the funny part is, my dad's dad, so my grandfather is named William Almack. We call him Bill Almack. But this is fascinating stuff because he essentially started what became this place called Boodles, which I'll get into in a second. So he sold off to a place called Boodles, but essentially, if you were royalty, if you had friends that were in royalty, this was the go-to gentleman's club of the time. So this was somewhere back in the day that they would go to sort of get away from their wives, have very, very fancy business meetings. And I'll show pictures of the actual place in a second, but of course I want to visit someday. It's that cool. But let me go back to Boodles because that one, let me see if I can find Boodles here. I don't know. Yeah, here he is. First Almax Club, Brooks and Boodles. So Boodles, this is one that I stumbled upon just finding the Almax. Originally based next door to William Almack's Tavern in a house also run by him. But let's go to notable members of Boodles. So essentially what happened was Boodles got or bought out the Almax, which is this gentleman's club here. So let's zoom in on the picture. That still, I think, probably looks like this or somewhat like this today, but we'll find out once we visit. So notable members, you go to Boodles, and I'm sure you guys definitely recognize a lot of the names here. But just right off the bat, I mean, William Wilberforce, that's a very, very influential figure. So we have the Duke of Wellington here, Adam Smith, they consider him the father of capitalism. So this guy is a very, very famous author. But all of these people were essentially in the 1800s sort of coming up with the thoughts of the time. So a lot of the literature that was developed, oh, here we go. Sir Winston Churchill was a member. So it's just crazy history involved in this building. And the building was originally owned by what we may know soon as our ancestors. We don't know quite yet. We can't confirm that. But just really, really cool stuff. If this is true, you really never know. I'll show you too, Dad, at some point that there is a book. I forget what it's called. It's like the Almax. I'll give a proper shout out once I think of the book here, because I'm going to do the same search with Mike and kind of go over just further research as we go forth on the episodes. But in light of this, I did actually, let me go back to the first search here. So this picture here, I thought this was too good not to put on a canvas. So I did order a little canvas that's got this on there because the coolest thing about the Almack assembly rooms, and you can do more research on your own, guys, and you especially, Dad, but the coolest thing about this is they were essentially, like, you think about like Great Gatsby and all of these like huge parties of like kind of old fashioned parties. They did this in the 1700s. So like, let me go back to this search here. I just saw it a second ago. I think it was on William Almax. I'll find it in a second. But there's an actual voucher. Let me just search that actually. The Almax voucher, but there's essentially a voucher that, here we go. So this right here, I'll zoom in on this. Oh, you can't see it. Whoops. Whatever. I'll zoom in on this on the actual video clip. But this is a ladies voucher to one of the Almack's parties. This is 1817, but every single year they would have the biggest ball in London, the biggest ball. So only 500 people were allowed. Okay. But you're talking about the most wealthy, influential people in London at the time were going to what's called the Almack. So that picture that I just showed that has everybody at the ball was literally the party. So that, like the Super Bowl of the time, whatever you want to call it, but just everyone who was anyone was at this Almack's assembly room during these balls. It was like you couldn't get access to a place like this. So just really, really cool history. And I wanted to kind of go through that with you on the line. But if you ever want to just do further research on your own, guys, feel free to do it. I'm sure plenty of people will not care at all. But when you think about your ancestry, and obviously I just had a child, so I'm thinking a lot more about history in general, and just a lot of stuff related to our family. I just wanted to kind of see, so I can tell the story to him someday of like, this is where we're from. But just very, very cool history when it comes to the Almacks. We sort of have the original entertainers, if you want to say, of the 1700s as a part. We'll see if they're actually a part of our family. I'd be shocked if they aren't, with how limited the name is. There's not too many people that have that name today. And I actually reached out to somebody on LinkedIn. Didn't reach out, actually, just connected with him because he had the same last name. He reached out to me and said that he had done 23andMe, I think it was, and essentially realized that, wait a second, William Almack was at least a part of his line. And William Almack was the creator of that assembly room in London. So it's actually in like St. James's Park, London. So I don't know too much about that area, but apparently it's not too far from Buckingham Palace. You know a lot about England.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably been in that area myself before, but yeah, one of these days we're gonna have to make a trip and go check it out.
Have to, and I think Boodle, so the one that I just showed that has Winston Churchill as a former member, he or just in general, Boodles I think is still in existence today. I mean, he's long gone, but
So I
Boodles.
don't know if you knew this, Ken,
still-
but there
still
is
around.
actually a building there on the property where the Almack building that you were the dances took place. That building was destroyed in the 1940s in World War II.
Interesting.
But there's a building now, a modern building on it that actually is called Almack House, and you can actually see that on the exterior of the building. And
No
apparently
way.
there's a plaque that says this is the original location of Almack's.
Wow,
Yeah. So I'll have to pull that up and see if I can send that to you.
that's
But
amazing.
if you Google Almack House or something like that, in London, that building comes up, and you can actually see what's there today, which is kind of cool. So
That's amazing. I'm going to look it up right now, actually, while I have you. Almack House, London. Yeah, so it looks like it's just like a renovated.
it's an office building kind of thing, but it's got a kind of cool front exterior. So
It is
yeah,
very cool looking.
there's one that shows the actual name on the outside, right there on the bottom left. Installed at Almack House. Ken, if you can, to your left,
Yep.
right, that one. If you click on that, check that out. See how it
Very
says
cool.
right there? Isn't that the coolest thing?
Almack House. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Very cool,
yeah.
London. So yeah, did I tell you that I switched my Premier League club? So I was a Manchester United fan for the longest time growing up. So my dad sort of introduced us to British football, as you say, or as we say in the States, British soccer. And at a very young age, honestly, this is pre being able to really even watch it on TV in the States. I would say it was like, unless you wanted to pay thousands of dollars to get the stupid subscription to watch it, but maybe not thousands, but it was expensive back then, and now they make it super easy. But your team's always been Tottenham, and
Sure has.
I didn't want to
A
pick
little
the same
Tottenham
team.
swag for behind me here. So anyway,
Yep. So he's a huge Tottenham fan. I didn't want to, which looking back, I would have just picked Tottenham, but I think at the time it was when Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo were both tearing
that's right.
for Manchester United. So this was pre-Diva Ronaldo, before he kind of became a big shot. And he was just incredible, young Portuguese guy who could just score on anybody, get past anybody on the dribble. Just a fantastic player. So that drew me in at a young age and free kicks, especially. He was just legendary at the sort of still free kick where he'd make the ball almost freeze in the air at super pace. So there's a science video on this actually where he can kick the ball differently than basically anyone who's ever tried it. So he was always my biggest kind of hero growing up from a soccer perspective until he sort of turned into a big shot. But that was the Manchester United days. Because of all the recent scandals, Mason Greenwood, you could just count 10 on your hand right now of just disgusting scandals about the Manchester United team, mixed with dreadful performance over the last 3 or so years, just inconsistency. Just ever since Sir Alex left, it's not been the same. So with that said, last year I kind of went on the hunt for a new Premier League club. Really liked Leeds United because they had Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams. Obviously they got relegated, so it's tough for me to root for a team who's not in the top league. So this year I kind of went on the hunt again for a new team and came upon Fulham FC because they have 2 American starters right now.
That's cool.
So Tim Reams, their captain from USA, you remember him from the World Cup. He's our center back, still is our center back, Tim Ream. So he's our captain, Fulham's captain. And we still have Anthony Robinson on the left back, so really solid player, fast wing back, just solid player. So he's younger too. So Tim Ream's like pushing retirement. I don't know how he's still this good. He's late 30s, doing really well as their captain in the Premier League still. But I mean, you remember Clint Dempsey used to play for Fulham back in the day.
Yep.
Absolute legend, Clint Dempsey from the USA. He's still on broadcast and stuff. I think with CBS Sports, but so yeah, it's fun to root for Fulham. But I wanted to tease the fact that I don't know if you saw we're playing each other on Monday. Fulham and
no way. Okay, I didn't see that.
Fulham and Tottenham is coming up this Monday, 3
Tottenham's
p.m.
been having a great year. The coach of the year so far, and some really good players. So
yeah, the James Madison pickup has been amazing for you guys,
and even
it looks like
Harry Kane hasn't been a disaster. So
exactly, I think it almost gives young Min's son a little more freedom up front because he doesn't have to, or it's not like he was inhibited by Kane, but he just has to take more of like the scoring load, and he's getting more touches and all the rest of it. So they're really, really solid. They're always good, but this year it seems like they are actually going to make a run at least the Champions League. But we'll see. But yeah, it's one of my passions still to this day, and I'm sure that came from you to some extent. Just watching soccer growing up, and I remember like being down at beach houses for vacation and stuff, and it was one of those World Cups where it was like middle of the night, and like you and Uncle Chris and a couple other people, like I was like whatever it was, 5-6 years old, and I was like, oh, we got to watch the World Cup. It was like a 2-3 a.m. game or something. Like I don't remember the game at all. I just remember like waking up for something like that. But yeah, it's definitely kind of built into my blood a little bit, the soccer game. So like I said, I got the pug nets out in the back for Luke once he's got to start him young, so he's ready to go once he can hobble around a little bit. We'll get the soccer ball going, and I'm not going to be that parent who's too pushy too. I'm gonna definitely, if he's not about it, if he's not liking it, we'll either switch to another sport, or maybe he's not going to be about sports altogether, so who knows. But hopefully he'll like something. But yeah, well, this has been awesome. Did you have any other topics for me that you want to talk about?
I have an idea for a future pod. Since this was kind of experimental tonight, so I have found myself particularly interested in the last couple of years in the topic of happiness and what actually creates a flourishing life. What is it that really at the core of us as human beings makes us tick and really come alive, if you will. And then particularly, you're thinking a lot about the history of our family right now. I think the older you get, you start thinking about your mortality too, and you start thinking about the future and like, how much longer am I going to live and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is, how do you make the second half of your life like the best half of your life? What is that going to look like? Because there's lots of choices you make about how you're going to spend your time, how you're going to spend your money, how you're going to, do lots of things. And I just have a lot of thoughts about that whole concept, and would
Mhm.
love to talk with you as a younger person about the things that are bringing joy to you and that you find, life giving and that sort of thing. But just, yeah, I thought, there's some fun stuff we could do. And one of the people that I really respect a lot who's written on this topic is a guy named Arthur Brooks. He writes for the Atlantic magazine. He teaches, I think, at Harvard, and he's actually just co-written a book with Oprah Winfrey, if you can believe it.
Okay.
And anyway, he's just a phenomenal writer and author, and there's just some really interesting stuff that he's done that I think will be fun for us to unpack or talk about, because I think it's interesting what I think about as a 55-year-old bringing joy and life. I mean, really different than you at a 29-year-old. But I think there's also some overlap between the two of us. One of the things that you taught me and that really you impressed on me was, how much more important our experiences and events are in our life than just consuming, stuff and having stuff, and how, if you've got a choice to spend your money on something, why not try to have a great experience with somebody else, or a great event with them, rather than just buying them something transactionally, that kind of thing. And,
Yep.
and so anyway, there's a lot to unpack there, but I thought maybe we could do a pod on just what does it really mean to be happy, or what does it
Yeah.
take, what does it actually take to truly be happy.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's just something to think about.
I like it a lot, and I'll even go as far as saying, like, I love the idea of something like that, slash just love the idea of happiness in general, because like I think when I think about happiness, it ties well into just the word love, and like, what do you love? Who do you love? What are the things you love? Like, I somebody obviously I went, so I didn't tell you this, but I went back to work today for the first time. So I was in the
Yeah,
office.
yeah,
So obviously first day back, you get all the people, oh, how,
yeah, yeah,
how's the baby, all the rest of it, why are you back so soon, all
yeah,
that stuff. So um, I think what I kept telling people that were around my desk that kept asking today is that, like, and shout out to Jake Miller, who gave me this advice years ago. So he'll be on the pod very soon. Actually, the intro video that you guys watched at the beginning of this is his music. So it's actually a riff that he created on the guitar. He's one of the best musicians I know. But what he told me 2 or 3 years ago when I visited him out in Ohio, so him and his wife were hanging out with me upstairs, and just kind of asked me, when are you guys thinking about having kids? Like, I think you guys are probably ready for it. Like, what's holding you back, basically. And I didn't have a good answer for him at the time, other than, like, I don't know, man. Like, just there's a lot going on right now. Like, I don't know. Like, we'll get to it at some point. Like, whatever. And keep in mind, he has 3 kids of his own, and he's younger than me, believe it or not. So he's late 20s. So what he said to me stuck with me for sure, and I think probably increased the timeline on when I was probably willing to have kids in my head. But he basically said to me, look, like, everyone has this big idea in their head of what kids are going to be. Just like everyone makes a big stink of, like, oh, when you're a parent, everything's going to change, and it's all different, and ooh, it's scary, and all that. And there's truth to that. Like, we got that so much from everybody, right? Because we are in our 20s. Like, it's uncommon. What he said to me recently, actually, is very uncommon. Like, I can think of me and him as my 2 friends that have kids. Actually, I have Calvin Pittman. He's in it, I guess. Yeah, he's still 20s, but you can't name that many people in their 20s that are having kids on a regular basis. So what he said to me was, everyone has this big stink about it, and in reality, it just makes everything better when you have a child. He said, your whole world just gets that much better, and like everything gets turned up a notch when it comes to what you said, happiness. You just become more happy. And I cannot tell you, and obviously people out there that have not had kids yet, you'll understand this when you have a kid. The truth to that is, it's just crazy how true that is, because I mean, some people will, some people won't. I ended up watching the whole experience, which was something on its own.
Yeah.
But the second that your baby is pulled out and is breathing air for the first
Oh,
time,
it's incredible.
when the first time you hold your son or daughter, it is out of body. It is magical. It's
Oh,
something,
it's a
and
crazy
that
experience.
that feeling has not left my body yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it won't. Yeah, it'll
It's
be there for a long, long time. Yeah,
it's something special. So essentially your brain goes to, what was I doing so long thinking about myself? I now have this other human being that I need to support and make sure that they have the best life possible. And just the things that that does to your brain, like my wife this week thought I was crazy. And
hmm
I kept kind of going back with her, and Tyler just kept, she was hitting me with, like, are you sure you're okay? All the rest. And I was like, no, I'm just like so happy. Like I haven't been this happy in so long. Like
yeah,
you forget about the stress of work, you forget about everything other than
yeah,
the life that was just created in front of you, and just kind of your new life, and everybody, oh, is it different now? Is it? And
yeah,
I keep saying it feels like he's always been there. It,
yeah.
it doesn't it doesn't feel different at all.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing, amazing feeling. And I think that, just to do a little quick shout out to this Arthur Brooks guy that I was talking about, one of the scientific research points he points out, and, we as humans are innately selfish. We're built to
Yep,
think about
yep,
ourselves. But in a great irony, actual happiness and joy often is very directly connected to what we do for other people.
yep, yep.
And we don't actually get that until we're doing it. And
Hmm.
parenting is an example of that. You often think of it as stressful or, beyond your capacity to handle or whatever. But when you're pouring yourself into somebody else and you're seeing, like a little kid smile or laugh or grab your finger or whatever they do, it just changes you in so many awesome ways. And so, yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. But we're not wired that way as human beings, to think of other people. And so parenting kind of forces you to think outside the box of
Yep.
just your own personal needs. And it's kind of the beginning of that shift to kind of see, yeah, oh, wow, yeah, being other centered is actually one of the keys to lifelong happiness,
Yep.
and actually real joy.
Yep, that's amazing. So yeah, I think I'll definitely take you up on kind of whatever you want that idea to be. Whether it's, I'm starting to figure out sort of the setup for conversations, podcast shows, whatever you want to call it. Just like so, if you wanted to do kind of a spin off that was something just about happiness, you think of a good title or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, me, I'm always ready to
yeah,
talk about it. So yeah, just let me know about that. We're coming close on the Phillies game here, so I do want to be
absolutely. Got to end out.
respectful of time. So,
Absolutely.
but the last thing I wanted to end with, and I'll probably do this every episode. So, um, I've been big. I don't know why lately. I really like rankings. Okay, so like kind of your top tens, top threes, top twos of like kind of gut reactions, spur of the
Yeah.
moment. What's your favorite, this or that? So I think one that I want to go at with you, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I have like two or three sort of in my brain right now but since we don't have too much time, we won't do a top 10. We'll just do, let's say, a top three. So top three, okay, and this is gut reaction. So
All right.
you're a well-traveled person, okay? You've been to a lot of places across the world. I hope to get to some places now that finally have my passport, so I can do some traveling now. But
Whee!
I want to hear your top three destinations, top three, your favorite places to be. So, and it obviously can be pretty broad, like you could pick one,
Yeah, no, no,
but
absolutely.
just top three places to be.
Yeah, well, I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to travel around the world. So I know not everybody has had a chance to get outside the United States, but if you can travel, it's worth it for sure. And so, first of all, in England, and obviously I'm going to be a huge England fan, but Cornwall, which is the kind of the area of England in the southwest, and a little town called Porthleven, which is where my grandmother Bessie Adams is from, and it's like nothing you can even describe. It's kind of like a yeah, paradise on earth in a way, because you've got, the ocean and a port, a little, thing, and you've got cliffs going, right up to the edge of the ocean there, and then fields going right up to the edge of the cliff. And so you can see like green all the way to the edge of the cliff. It drops off, and then you got the ocean, and it's just phenomenal. So that would be definitely like my number one.
Port Levin. Okay.
Would be Port Levin. I think I enjoyed a lot of my trips to South America, and probably one of my favorite places or countries in South America was Chile. And I had a chance at one time to go to Santiago, which is the main capital. It was in August, and I got to go onto this huge mountain that they have where they had snow in August at the top of the mountain.
Wow.
And people were like snowboarding and skiing in August. And that was just one of the cooler, events of my life to be able to go and
That's
to
awesome.
be there. So I would do that again in a heartbeat. And then, just a shout out to my childhood. I loved growing up in the Caribbean.
Yep.
And certainly Barbados was by far my favorite island to live on. I think a lot of things have changed there, but they had such cool things to do. And they had this thing called the Animal Flower Cave, where you could actually go, you would walk on this cliff and then go down into, the cave, if you will, and you could look out on the ocean. You were up 20, 30 feet, but you were looking out through a hole and actually would see the ocean there.
Wow.
And then periodically, when the tide would come in, it would actually raise up to come inside the cave. So you couldn't always be in the cave, kind of thing. But they had these really wild flowers. I think they were flowers. I'm not even sure what they were. There was probably some kind of animal, but you would touch them and they would shrink, and they were in the water in this cave. And so it was just really cool. And I have just so many great memories of that place. But yeah, those would be some of my top three, I would say.
That's amazing. We're gonna have to do our honeymoon in the next year or two here, and Barbados is definitely sort of on the list. I know you said it's changed a lot, but it's still a good
Oh yeah, there's some great places.
vacation destination. Beautiful, crystal clear blue water. I remember growing up, and I was always like, because you would tell us about your honeymoon and stuff every once in a while, and I remember being like, I'd love to get to Barbados today, so I'll have to plan a trip out there at some point. But yeah, those are some good ones. I didn't expect Chile. I don't even remember you ever, but that's really cool. You got the snowboarding in the middle of August. That's awesome.
That was really cool. So yeah, I had a friend today invite me out to Montana, and so I'm probably gonna take him up on that at some point. But I think back to your conversation a little while ago about kind of events and how experiences shape us, and I think travel is one of the cooler ways that we are actually shaped in relationship. And one of the things that your mom and I had a chance to do many years ago was to drive across the country from Idaho all the way back to Pennsylvania with a car that somebody gave us. And it was this longest road trip of my life, but it was also one of the best things that ever happened in our marriage, because we got to really, just be with each other intensely for that, season or that window of time that week. And we got stuck in a snowstorm. We had all kinds of crazy things happen that we look back on as very, very memorable. But one of the things that we learned to do together on that trip was to read out loud to each other. And that's something we continue to this day doing. And so, yeah, it's just always amazing to think about how trips and life and experiences shape and change us. So
yeah, no, that's it. And it's interesting you bring up reading. I'm surprised we didn't really get to reading too much in the episode other than your publishing side. But I think like growing up, because we, we're at CLC and you guys, like my dad literally worked at a Christian bookstore, which Mike and I ended up working at in high school as well. So like books were just everywhere, not only in the house, but as a part of like the organization, just books. And, we grew up in the time when cable TV was starting to become popular. You had the early rise of the internet and just everything kind of sort of becoming digital. And I think Mike and I were very we looked at reading as more of like, this is a task to do at school. Like this is more of a chore than anything else. And I think like when we were, not forced, but a lot of times forced to read books and actually take in books as information, not just school, but outside of school. Just you learn so much. And I think like you're a prime example of like how smart you can become with just being like well read. And I think like as I've gotten older, that's like I definitely become much more of a book person. There's just something to kind of putting down the laptop or the TV and getting outside and reading a book. Actually, the one that I just ordered, I've not broken into yet, but it's actually about like the American Indians. So I think it's somewhere over there, but it's about the American Indians and like the Comanche Indians. So I'm excited to read that one, just kind of getting down this history rabbit hole a little bit. Just kind of about like what the United States was like in the early years and all the rest of it. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of read more as we go, but yeah,
One quick,
really,
a
yeah,
quick shout out for a book recommendation
yeah,
that
give me one.
your mom and I are reading right now. It's basically the Lewis and Clark expedition.
Mm,
Basically, was when President Jefferson sent the guy that was like his closest confidant to go and discover the West. And how he not only, and they were looking for a river that would go from the Mississippi all the way to the Pacific. Of course, they never found it, but he actually did make it on this trip all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and it's an incredible story, absolutely incredible story.
Lewis and Clark. I remember there was at Open Door. Shout out to Open Door, but they had they would have these people come in we had like regular chapel on a weekly basis, and there was, I don't know if they invited parents or anything like that, but there was like people who'd come and act out Lewis and Clark.
Oh, no way, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, okay. So you guys didn't come to that, but it was insane. So you'd have these like real life actors acting out Lewis and Clark. So like we were very familiar with that story, and just like the kind of early years of what became the USA and what was the USA. But yeah, it's
Well, one
yeah,
of these days we should do a podcast. This is another idea for you
yeah.
on really understanding actual history, and
Hmm.
particularly American history, because I think American history is very complex when you have the mixture of slavery and the
Yeah.
issues, of Indians being forced out of the places that they, lived and had grown up and all the rest of it. And I think that there's some really great historians who've written some really good work on this that, I think we don't learn a lot about that in high school or in college, because there's a particular viewpoint that oftentimes, I think we all have grown up with a very positive view of America, which is good, and we should have a positive view of America. But there's also a lot more complex picture to what our history is all about.
Yeah.
And I think understanding that history in its full breadth, and what that actually meant for people that were Indians living, on, the East Coast, and that no longer had the land that they thought was their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty
So
powerful stuff.
it is. It really is. And so that I just remembered, and I pulled it up for a second. So the book that I just ordered, which I've only read like the first chapter, let's say, of it. But it's called Empire the Summer Moon. Are you familiar with this one?
Yeah, I think so.
So
Does
it's the Quanah Parker and the Rise and Fall of the Comanches, the most powerful Indian tribe in American history.
Okay, yeah, no, I think well, I think that's on one of my short lists to read. So yeah, I'll definitely
Yeah.
take a look at that.
Well, what I'll if once I finish, I'll just send it to you so you can catch up on it. But it's been recommended to me by a few people, but it's apparently like obviously kind of what the title says, that the rise and fall of the most powerful Indian tribe, which is very interesting, and apparently they're pretty savage, but it's obviously fascinating stuff just to think about what the country would have been like back then. And funny enough, and this will probably be like one of the last things we can talk about, but I with this whole history kick I've been on, I was taking a walk with Daisy. I don't know if I told you about this. Did I tell you about this? I was taking a walk with Daisy, and
And you
there's
found an old house or something?
built in 1776 in my
Wow,
neighborhood.
that's so crazy.
So it's this guy called John Inskeep. Here, actually, I'll share screen for this one, because I did some more. So here's the Empire of the Summer Moon, but I'll show you John. I think the house comes up too, but John Inskeep. Here he is. Okay, so this is the house. This is in my neighborhood.
Wow.
Built in 1776. So yeah, here we go. So view one, like it's got this is the inside. That's cool. I didn't know they actually
That's wild.
restored the inside. So very old. There's a tour coming up. So this society I'm actually thinking about joining, but it's like the
Okay.
local historical club.
That's
But
awesome.
this guy, John Inskeep, so he's born near Marlton's. That's my neighborhood here.
Mhm.
As of October 20th, 1800, he was elected mayor of Philadelphia.
That's amazing.
succeeding Robert Wharton. So
Huh.
very, very cool. And I don't know if Robert Wharton's associated with the Robert or the Wharton School of Business
Oh, I think it's probably named after him, but
at
yeah.
Penn, but that's really, really cool. You'd think that it has something to do with the Wharton School, but maybe not. That means a different word, but yeah, John Inskeep, that is in my neighborhood, which is cool enough. But yeah, he's a former mayor of Philadelphia that used
Very
to.
cool.
It was, I think it must have been the first house in the neighborhood, I think, and then the complex was probably built at some point after that. But they had a video that I watched that was basically just describing like what, so like people from my area used to have to bus over, and this is like pre-buses, you'd have to walk, but Camden was the closest grocery store. So like from where I am to Camden, I mean, we're talking 30-minute drive right
That's
now.
crazy.
So that was the closest, like people to get their groceries. That's like a day trip
Yeah.
just to go and get food. And also it says too here, I forgot to mention this, elected a director of the Insurance Company of North America. So Insurance Company of North America is the oldest stock insurance company in the United States. Founded in Philadelphia in 1792.
That's amazing.
Crazy. So he founded, or not founded, but he was a part of the oldest stock insurance company ever in the US. So just really cool history. And honestly, the land that we grew up on at CLC, I think you brought this up on the phone the other day. I mean, we're talking about where George Washington had his troops. That's sort of the land that that CLC are. My great grandfather, but my dad's grandfather, Kenneth Adams, somehow figured out a way to get this land that was a camp, right? One of George Washington's camps.
Yeah, on the way to Valley Forge. Exactly.
Unbelievable. So I actually still have to this day a Civil War bullet that I found in the ground. So there's it's like a thick lead bullet that they would have shot from like muskets back then. So that just, you find that in the ground.
It's probably Revolutionary War, not Civil War, but
Civil War, Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
I'm still getting up to date on my my history.
History. You'll get there. So, yeah.
But
anyway, yeah. Well, man, I probably need to let you go so you can go watch.
Hey, you got to watch the Phillies too. We're
what a game they had last night. It was awesome. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm excited. They're giving us, and imagine if the year that my son's born, we get the win. It'll be a shame if he can't remember it, but it's a pretty special year if we can. And it's I don't know if you saw Thursday night. I don't know if this was. It makes you think of like conspiracies and stuff, but Thursday night. So we have a game tonight, Tuesday, 8:07, which is a more understandable time for like an NLCS game. Thursday's game is 5:07 Eastern, which means in Arizona. What time is that in Arizona? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock?
2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
They're not gonna have a single fan there.
I know, that's weird. That's really weird.
I mean, if we win tonight, we're not gonna lose game 3 at 2 o'clock in Arizona. I'll tell you that. So it's looking really good for the Phils. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch. We just got to win tonight, and then it's, I think, smooth sailing from there. And then it looks like we might be playing the Rangers. You see that they're up 2-0 on the Astros. So that'll be. I hope it's not the Astros. They're very, very good. And last year they were good. Yeah. Well, Dad, I really appreciate it. I'll basically run this all by you, before I post anything.
Totally.
But yeah, I appreciate you being my first guest here. I'm sure we got a lot of good stuff that we can use. And like we were saying, if you ever want to do like a spin-off or whatever, just let me know and we can do that. But this has been awesome. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Anytime.
All right, Dad. Love you. I'll talk to you.